Hi guys, okay, welcome back. I'm going to quickly run through how to read MailChimp's API and then to make API calls through Postman. So I've gone into MailChimp and I've found the developer section, and the first thing, if you remember, is to understand what the authentication method MailChimp uses. So from reading this, they actually use HTTP basic authentication using an API key, and the way that they structure it is to enter any string as the username and to enter the API key as a password. And this is an example of a curl request. You can see that it's a get method. This is the URL, and this is user information, so any string and then the API key. Something to note in here is they've got this DC value in there, and after some investigation, this DC actually relates to data center. So within this documentation is actually not much written about exactly what this is. I'm sure it's written somewhere, but I couldn't find it. What this value is relating to the data center for where my data is stored. Now, to get this attribute is actually appended onto the end of the API key. So if I show you my MailChimp, and I got into my account section and I've clicked on extra and clicked on API keys, and you can generate a new API key. Here I've just copied it and I'll just pasted it into a notepad. This is the DC element US3. So it took a little while to figure out what this was, but we figured it out. You'll notice also that MailChimp also supports OAuth 2. So I will do another video explaining how OAuth 2 works. So the important thing about reading the API documentation is to go through it patiently and figure out exactly how this works. Now, sometimes the API documentation can be quite long, and sometimes you just want the information. You just want information to the point. But I mean, the first thing that we want to know is how do you actually make the request. So we figured that out. So we're going to, for this example, we're going to do this HTTP basic authentication, and the next thing, if you remember, is to understand the endpoint and which endpoint we want to call. So I've located this endpoint here within the developer section again, and this is information about all the different endpoints that MailChimp supports. So you'll see that this is the root endpoint, and then they've got all the various different endpoints here. Now, the information that I want to look for is about campaign data. So I've located campaigns here, and I thought it might be this one, so I clicked on campaigns, and I want to get campaigns, and I'm just looking at the fields that it returns, and it's just returning what the kind of information that I want is like open statistics, click statistics and that kind of thing. And this, from the looks of it, is just telling me about the actual campaign information itself. So that's not what I want. What I want is actually the reporting data for campaign. So I've gone through this, and some of this stuff is not relevant. E-commerce is not going to be relevant. So I've gone through it. File manager, Facebook ads are not relevant. Landing pages, lists and audiences, that might be relevant, but if it's not, we'll come back to it. Just check everything else. So this looks interesting. Reporting and reports. Get information about the reporting endpoint resources. I'll just click on that and just try and understand what they're talking about here. So it's a list of link types. I'm just going to look and see what sort of information they're providing. They don't actually provide that type of information from the looks of it. It's just links. So I don't think that's it. So it might be this one, reports. I'm going to click on that, and yeah, so this is reports, and you can then also provide reports / campaign ID and get specific campaign reports. So I'm just looking at the fields that returned. So okay, here we go. Response body parameters, total items, links, response. Okay, this is interesting. So if I make a request, get reports with a campaign ID, this is the information it will return. So it'll give me the campaign title, list name, subject line, email sent, unsubscribe. So this is send time, bounces, forwards, opens, clicks. This is the type of information that I'm looking for. So what I'm going to do is, I think this is the report that I want. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and test this in Postman. So firstly, I'm going to go and it's already set on get. Now I'm going to copy this URL here. I'm going to paste it into there. Now DC relates to this thing that's appended on the end of. So I'm just going to paste that. Now the authorization, if you remember, is HTTP basic authentication. The Postman is quite useful in terms of some of the authentication processes. So it will actually give you a couple of options in here about the different types of authentication. So here, this is the one we're going to use, basic auth. And what Postman does is it fills in or gives you a form to fill in your username and password. So if you remember correctly, it says enter in any string as a username, so we'll just do ABC, and then for the password I'm going to copy that, and just paste that in. So I think that's all it is. Okay, and that's just calling this particular this is calling the root endpoint. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first call the reports endpoint, because we don't have a campaign ID right now, and I just want to see if it returns information. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click send. Okay, and that worked. So we've got a status 200 OK, and you can see that it's giving me back a JSON response, and you can see that it's giving me actually information. Looks like by campaigns. It's giving me back all the campaign information here. So this looks pretty good. So I thought it would have just given me back kind of like high level information about the reports, but it's actually giving me back the granular information about each report. So that looks pretty good. But just to for completeness, let's find a campaign ID. Let's pass the campaign ID into here, and let's get more specific reports. So I'm going to go back into references. I'm going to find campaigns, and campaigns, I want to read campaigns. I want to get all campaigns, so I'm going to copy that, and I'm just going to paste it in there. And there's an ID that's been returned, and I'm going to just use that. So I know in my MailChimp I've only got one campaign, so I think that might be the campaign ID. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm just going to go back to this and go reports / and I'm just going to paste that in and see if that works. And that's given me again another status 200 OK. So coming back to the reports endpoint, we'll quickly find that has also worked. So that looks pretty cool. So okay, so it's this one here, and that's given me all this information here. And it's giving me all it looks pretty good to me. So I'm pretty happy with that. It seems to be working. My requests are all being processed and accepted by MailChimp servers. So in the next step, we're going to talk about how we process this JSON using logic apps or Microsoft Flow. So see you in the next video.